All right, friends, time for a YouTube recap. We had a very interesting dump day there. And if you watched the last couple videos, we said that the triple gap on SPY, that was just being created right here, was a huge no-go. We were not going to leave another triple gap, okay? And what we talked about here in the last couple of videos where I wanted to see the downside. Hopefully it was caused by NVIDIA. Hopefully it was caused by news. We'll see when it comes up today. That's okay, no downside. We didn't see it, no confirmation, but we did get some awesome plays on the triple gap, okay? So we have this solid gap one, solid gap two, and then today that would have been the third gap, would have been, right? But if you've been watching the last few videos, you see me stressing and yelling about how rare a triple gap is for the SPY. I encourage you to go back, use a little gap finder tool, do whatever you want to do, and look where there's a triple gap in the exact same spot, exact same price action. Go ahead and find one for me. It's going to be quite impossible. So we had a sneaking suspicion that we were going to douse today. And even in the pre-market, which we had going on for jobs data today, we had a very big opportunity to see the crunch, right? And we got smoked right to the upside. And it's all because of NVIDIA. So I posted some really keen NVIDIA anchors. Anything over this on NVIDIA, underscore was going up. We have high lows and a post here for the opportunity for 1 minute gap looking good to grind above. So we were putting out gap targets way out here on NQ, over 118 points to the long side pre-market. They're coming out as points of interest that we wanted to watch to that upside, right? No trade calls. We didn't even take half those trades. They're just watches, making sure our algorithm systems work and then applying it to much better trades. For the news today, I said NQ still has 70 points each way from the long target. Going to be a huge day. SPY is already over the double gap, making it a third gap, right, in pre-market. And I can't see this but anything but 100% up. And that was for the jobs data. So let's take a peek at everything that went through here on SPY. So in pre-market, this was one of the biggest signs here that we had to work with, okay? And that was the gaps for today. So here labeled, you see the gap top number one not filled at 593 and gap number two on the daily 592.66 right here on SPY. Those are the double gaps that were open in the same place as we already discussed. I just want to make sure you guys know what we're talking about here. Gap one, gap two, and then gap three was today's. And we opened up above both those gaps. So we did have a third gap, but it turned into a common gap, which fills same day. So as we came into the jobs data, right, and I said in our chat, it's 100% upside. I can't see it any other way because of a Q's algo we'll go over in a second here, which I've been calling for a while. But 7:30 was the data here. Came in, and I said nothing but 100% upside. So data looped it, pushed it up. We got above both gaps as expected and unexpectedly washed out early. I was really hoping for a little longer time up here before we could find a short because we had a really good over-under level, really good targetable. We'll go over on Qs, but SPY just did this beautiful front run and it filled the gap right away on the common gap. It filled all three gaps today. It opened up, hit the 10 SMA daily, which is right here on the blue dash line. And then it lost gap one and gap two and slammed right into yesterday's highs and went lower and then picked itself right back up and off we go because that was all developed off NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, as I posted before, there's no such thing as a stock market. Just watch NVIDIA. If NVIDIA goes up, long the market. If NVIDIA goes down, vice versa. Very similar. So we told you right around here that 15 cross, NVIDIA was going to start getting wild about 144 or so, and had a wild open and then a huge profit take, and then it just ground right back to the upside, right? So if NVIDIA goes long, go long, and vice versa for the SPY and QQQ. So we also had the QQQ target, which we're almost back to. And then again, in all of my private chat, I was talking about, even in this zone right here, we called the inside gap zone. So you see this red zone right here, and this is another daily gap that the QQQ has. And at the time, SPY was actually running into its gap like here higher, and Q's was barely getting into its gap. I don't know how that got on a highlighter randomly, but you can barely see that. So the SPY was pushed up into its gap, QQQ barely into its gap. So SPY is what it looked like over here, way up into the gap, and QQQ is just getting started. So we ended up looking at a 10 SMA loop. If you look at our moving average systems here on, excuse me, on our channel, I teach you guys what these loop and swoops do. So way back down here, we had gotten over that 10 SMA. It's in the blue. See the price action riding. Then we got a little bit of a double top coming into data, which I said was 100% to the long side, no problem, because we have a pre-market golden pocket data tag 50 that we need to do. So this was always the target for QQQ to come back to 506.61. Very strong algorithm program here. Even left the gaps open. The gaps way up here at 508.34 are open on QQQ. Probably go tackle those, maybe even for a 4-step Friday tomorrow. We'll see. It's anybody's game. But this loop right here was very interesting because, again, if you watch our system on how to use these, dips gives you the loop and swoop all the way up. And then volleyed down. Now, I had the magnet on for this morning, and it was a very short trade. And then we had to chase the downside. Here, we'll go to the minute chart. Excuse me. Still very sick here, guys, so if I'm all over the place, my apologies. So we had this double top, pulls down a little bit here, market open. I'm like, okay, so I went long right at that market open down here. It slammed up into my predictive zone here. This is my algo zone. Got out of the long immediately and then watched. And then obviously it just tanked to the downside. After the second candle, it had complete disrespect of the 100 EMA. Okay, just dink, dink. And I'm like, wow, this candle is super powerful. I highly doubt we're going to range back up. We're actually going to go for the gap fill because SPY is not going to leave 3 gaps on the daily chart, as we've said in many YouTube videos. Super rare in the same price action. Go find me one. Go find me a triple gap anywhere on SPY. I'll wait. So that gap was high probable chance of filling. And we called that on YouTube multiple times. Even though I wanted to see downside first, it's still, well, it gapped up. So the third. So it did give you a third gap, but that was the awkward day. So it plowed through the 100 EMA, plowed through that VWAP. So I shorted down here and I chased it down to yesterday's highs for the fill as well. And then obviously it went another double of what it opened at. So absolutely insane. And then we had a 3 down and algorithm program long call here. Okay, so I'll go over this last trade here that made us our little $4,700 a day in the real accounts and did 44, 45, and 47 on the top step accounts today. And this was the one trade plan. And again, it has to do with our moving average system. And it was crazy. The market loves things that come in threes, patterns in threes, right? So even on the 1 minute chart, here's the opening dump. 1, 2 with a lower low, 3, right? 1 down, 2 down, 3 down. So I mentioned this in chat. I'm like, okay, we got a 3 down, guys. And we're coming down to very important floating candle support right here, 498. This is a golden pocket, which we always use on Fibonacci's daily, right? So we got a GP, golden pocket. We came up to that support, created a higher low. And I said, okay, if the trend, suggests higher high, higher low, we're going to ride that 10 SMA all the way up to where? 100 EMA and 200 SMA. Why did we get that magnet? Well, at the open, look at the price action. Wash dump, retrace, shy no tag. See how far it is away from the 100 EMA in the green? Shy no tag. Nothing in the 100 EMA in the green. VWAP stopped it. So as the third attempt comes back up after the algos have done a 3 down, we have a higher low, higher high system here. Bottom, higher high in micro sequence, higher low, higher high in sequence, and off we go. So I told everybody I'll buy anything into the 10 SMA and we're going to go up. So we did a nice, beautiful live trade for that last couple thousand. And it rode that 10 SMA, dink, right into the 10, right to the 100 EMA target. So from the cross back down here, we called huge 120 something, I think it was. I forget what it was. And then we went up to the 200 and I said short at the 200 SMA because we're going to have a nice scalp on the way back down for the first tag of the 200. And that'll be a good one. So we broke through the 100 EMA, right? All the way back through. Hit the 200 SMA to the penny. We went short. Netted us another 45 points to the downside. First tag metrics, which I talk about all the time on this channel. First tags. They're extremely important with magnets. And then I hopped off my stream and I said, all right, guys, the red zone gap lower is your over under. We can't do anything else for the day until we see trend positive. Above or below this. And I said 503.35 for my chat is your over under, which means that is the biggest level in the range of the price action that we are currently in. So if price action's right here, I'm not going to pick a level up here, that's an over under. I'm not going to pick a level that's down here, that's an over under. I'm not just going to pick a random VWAP that we're nowhere near. This is the level that we were closest to, and this is the biggest level. Why? Because it's a gap daily. Huge, right? So we put this as an over under right here on the red zone start. And I said, just watch it. Just let it chop for a little bit and watch it. Sure. After 10:30:11 is Euro close for my central time. So right in between here is where it will pick trend. Well, as you see it come back down from a higher high, creates higher lows, Off she went into the red zone, consolidates. And what happened to that breakaway? 200 SMA finally catches up. So we broke over the 200 SMA. That's the peach salmon color right here, dash line. And we need confirmation. So even if you miss this huge roll up, you wait till the 200 SMA catches up. Dink, and there you go. There's your longs all the way in. And that's more of a confirmational trade right here. Very patient coming into that. And then you also have a, just a really choppy 10 SMA. It's a really crappy program on the algos there to be rocking that chop. So there's not a whole lot we could do with that. But a backtest confirmation here that 200 SMA, high or low, trend positive, still higher. So 5-minute chart tells a little bit better of a story. Excuse me. For this play, and we're really big on 10 SMA riding, as you have heard me say a million times now. Check the video. Broke over the 10 SMA right here in the blue. Travel, broke under, loop, and off she went again. 10 SMA, loop, back up again. Positive trend. Okay, very nice and clean story there on the 5-minute chart and your over-under level, which is great. Pushed into level, pushed over level. Not bad at all. Very, 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 very sequenced there. And you can look at some of your oscillation indicators for your confirmations as well. Once we broke through that red zone, right? Excuse me, guys. Mac Cross positive right here at 11 a.m. Right at that beautiful double bottom, 200 SMA, 666, and VWAP all support. MACD was crossing with a really strong wave to 11:15, 11:30. So that uptrend right there was looking really good, holding the 50 waypoint of the RSI, getting above that MAC 0 line for trend. Lots of confirmation there, right? So we made it back up to POC. We're all the way back to floating the gap. And now what about tomorrow's prediction? What are we waiting for? Those are all ever grand plays that we made great trading on today. What are we going to do with that, huh? Well, we come into the gap. We have our superb level right here, 10 SMA, which we missed. Okay, so 10 SMA daily is going to be a deal. And the daily gap still open on QQQ. Now, we filled all of them up here on SPY, but that is lackluster for our friend QQQ, the crappier market. SPY is always the better trader here. So we are still dealing with this double gap zone in the red, right? So daily gap number 1 back here, still not filled. That's at 508.34. And gap number 2, a little bit lower, right there at the red zone, 507, maybe 77 or so there, to the top of the zone. And you can see what we have right here with this large wick candle down, holds the golden pocket, pushes all the way back up today. No big deal. So tomorrow, it's going to be 10 SMA over under, and we got to worry about a triple gap again. So we have now this gap right now, if we keep this, it's not a gap and go, right? We filled this gap. This is the common one. We did not create another third gap up here in QQQ. So what we want to see for Friday is hopefully this gap gets taken out. So if we open above it, it comes back down, slams into it, goes. If we open up below it, the 10 SMA, it pushes into the 10 SMA and gaps, fills, then flops. Okay. I think a lot of that is still going to be dependent off NVIDIA, right? So for my team, we told everybody to just watch NVIDIA. If NVIDIA goes long, just long the market. Doesn't matter what it does. It conked out here, after that big earnings push up. Now we're barely sitting at yesterday's highs. Big old nothing sandwich as far as earning moves are concerned. Just a wave, chop, and nothing. So what do we do for the indicator on NVIDIA? We're going to take this big, ugly doji body that we got, floating here at all-time high. And wherever this closes at, this is obviously still open for about a half hour. I'm going to take the body like this. I'm going to make a nice channel with the large wick, and I'm going to say, well, whatever direction we find here is the market direction for tomorrow. If NVIDIA is above the 149 channel and keeps going, great. Take it long into the highs. If it's below, then we start fleeting back down under 10 SMA, same as the market, same as the QQQ, same as the SPY. Then we're going to go short. It's very simple. It's confirmation of over-under for NVIDIA. As far as the volatility index is concerned, I'll touch on this real fast, but this morning, this was another big one for my team where I said I was going to go long all pre-market because we did have gaps that were unfilled right here. Not this one, this bottom one. We're unfilled right here, as well as another that needed to be filled down at these low 16s. So I've seen this thing coming down like right here early morning, getting up, and I'm like, yeah, we have a long way down to filling the gap. We filled that. And then we said deviation underneath, which is this -1 right here. Here's your 0. Here's your +1. And we said anything that starts under there, VIX is going to have a nice whip to come back up, right? So a short morning. Right at the open, worked out perfect. So the volatility index is kind of signaling a little bit of health here where it's like, well, I'm just going to hold tight just in case anything else crazy happens in the news, dead consolidation pushing into the gap, right? So we had the monster election gap still plaguing us way back here for that fifth. And then we have a gap lower in the 14s and the lower here. So is the VIX going to come back down for that and head back up, or are we going to start trending back up to here? Well, right now the MACD is still getting bullish on the VIX. We're about to hit that RSI temporary resistance where it pulls back a little bit. Maybe VIX chills for the rest of the week and then continues next week. And then we can see these candles that have all created higher lows and higher highs kind of persist with a push, going to tackle that gap way up there in the 20s again, because we do have that MACD starting, right? But again, that's a lagging indicator, so it can take some time. So in my opinion, even with the absolute monstrosity we've seen on the daily chart here on SPY, I am still a big player for, excuse me, the downside, because we need to commit to trend above or below the 10 SMA. So as far as SPY is concerned, we have one setup of double gaps left way down here. I still think we get a magnet down here to fill some of those. First gap tag to the low side, obviously this being the gap candle right here. Price action came down, pushed into the gap, does not want anything to do with filling the gap, so we're up on NVIDIA earnings alone. So if we do happen to close above this and we start ranging back up at the 10, it's going to come up to the lower high area and just kind of stall out tomorrow most likely. Best case scenario is we flop here, close under the 10, close under the gaps, close under 593, and then start a red walk down, because we still need to walk down to the 50 SMA, 100 EMA, QQQ, these gaps down here. And that's just a watch. You know, it has to close under the 10 SMA and start creating trend. If it doesn't, we're just going to loop back on the MACD and start pushing higher. No big deal. The RSI actually puts them in on Qs or on SPY here a little bit of a higher low, and we're still not too extended over the 50. So we could actually put in another pressure run to get the RSI to overbought and hot, and then we can start looking at the downside then. Who knows? But $600 is still our all-time high here on the SPY. Those are all the predictions. Nothing